Hey guys, welcome back. So today we'll be comparing fractions using three different methods. So let's look at our first example. Let's say we had 5 over 6 and 3 over 4. The first method that we're going to use is to find a common denominator. You're either going to find your least common multiple or your least common denominator. The second method is to write your fractions as a decimal. And then your third method is to cross multiply. So let's go back to the same example we have here. If I'm going to find my common denominator, I'm going to find the multiples of my 6 and my 4. So let's go ahead and do that first. We have 6, 12, 18, 24, and 30. And I'll stop here for now. The multiples of 4 is going to be 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. And I'll stop here for now. The least common multiple is going to be the number 12. So that means I need to get 12 in my denominator so that I can compare my fractions. So we have my 12 here and my 12 here. I know I need to get 12 in the denominator, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2. And then if I look at my 4, which is what we have here, and the multiple for 4 is here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to multiply 5 times 2. This is going to give us 10. And then 6 times 2 is going to give us 12, which we already have here. Next, we have 3 times 3 is 9. And then 4 times 3 is 12, which we already have here. So now if I compare these two fractions, which one is larger? Is it the 10 or the 9? And just by looking at these two fractions, then I see that 10 over 12 is larger than 9 over 12. Since 10 over 12 is greater, then you know that this fraction here is greater than 3 over 4. So your answer here is going to be 5 over 6 is greater than 3 over 4. Let's look at the second method. Second method is to turn your fractions into decimals. So 5 over 6, if you turn this into a decimal, you're going to get 0.833, and that's going to be repeating. And then 3 over 4, if you turn this into a decimal, you're going to get 0.75. And now if you have to compare these two decimals, which decimal is larger? The largest decimal is going to be here. Your 0.833 repeating is larger than 0.75. So if you're looking at the fraction, then we know 5 over 6 again is greater than 3 over 4. The next method that we have is to cross multiply. So if I cross multiply 4 times 5, this is going to give me 20. And then 6 times 3, this is going to give me 18. If I compare my 20 and my 18, you're going to see that your 20 is larger. So we know that 5 over 6 again is greater than 3 over 4. Now, there is a warning for method number 3 if you cross multiply. Make sure if you're going to cross multiply that you do add your numbers to the top of the fraction because that's supposed to represent your numerator. Do not add your number at the bottom to represent your denominator because that can be misleading. So for an example, let's say if I did the same exact problem, 5 over 6 and 3 over 4. And let's say I did cross multiply and I said 5 times 4 is 20 and then 6 times 3 is 18. This is misleading. You may think that my 3 over 4 is greater than the 5 over 6 because my 20 lands on the right side of the fraction. So beware that if you're going to cross multiply, make sure that you do cross multiply and add your numbers on the top to represent your numerator and not the denominator. Let's look at our next example. Let's say we have 3 over 5 and 3 over 20. So let's go ahead and find a common denominator for the first method. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I'll stop here for now. And then for my 20, we're going to get 20, 40, 60, 80, and I'll stop here for now. The least common multiple that we have, we're trying to find a common denominator so that we can compare our fractions, is going to be the number 20. So we have a 20 here, and the number 20 here. So that means I need to get 20 in my denominator so that we can compare the fractions. All right, so let's look at my 5, which is what we have here. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's what's going to give me 20 in my denominator. And then for my 20, just multiply top and bottom by 1. And I just have 1 right here. You can leave it alone or just multiply by an imaginary 1, but it's not going to change your numerator. So we have 3 times 4, this is 12. 5 times 4 is already 20, we already got that. 3 times 1 is 3, and then 20 times 1 is already 20, we already got that. So now by looking at my 12 over 20 and my 3 over 20, which one of these fractions is going to be larger? And that's going to be the 12 over 20, which represents my 3 over 5 right here. So your answer is 3 over 5 is greater than 3 over 20. Let's look at the second method, 3 over 5, and then 3 over 20 here. If I turn my 3 over 5 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.6. And then if I turn my 3 over 20 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.15. If we compare these two decimals, you're going to see that the 0.6 is greater than the 0.15. So again, we know that 3 over 5 is greater than 3 over 20. Now, if we cross multiply, remember the warning that we have. If you're going to cross multiply, make sure you add your number on the top and not towards the bottom. So I'm going to do 20 times 3. This is going to equal 60. And then you're going to have 5 times 3. This is going to equal 15. So just by comparing these two numbers, again, you're going to see that your 3 over 5 is greater than your 3 over 20 because you have your 60 is larger than your 15 here. 2 over 6 and 1 over 9. So first, we're going to find a common denominator for the first method. So 6, 12, 18, 24, and 30. I'll stop here for now. In my 9, you're going to get 9, 18, 27, and 36, and I'll stop here for now. The least common denominator that we're going to find between these two is going to be the number 18, so that means you need to get 18 in your denominator. So 18 here and 18 here. We're going to look at my 6. 6 times what is going to give me 18 in the denominator? That's going to be 1, 2, 3. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by the number 3. And then for my 9, you have 1, 2. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by the number 2. So you have 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. We already have that. And then 1 times 2 is 2. And then 9 times 2 is 18. We already have that. Just comparing my 6 over 18 and my 2 over 18, you're going to see that the 6 over 18 is greater than the 2 over 18. And the 6 over 18 represents my 2 over 6 here. So your final answer is 2 over 6 is greater than 1 over 9. And if you're going to read it the other way, you may also see something that says 1 over 9 is less than 2 over 6. So let's look at the second method, the decimal form. Number 9 is here. So 2 divided by 6, if I turn that into a decimal, you're going to get 0.33 repeating. And then if you turn your 1 over 9 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.111 with the 1 repeating. So if I compare these two decimals, then you're going to see that the 0.3 is greater than the 0.1. So again, we know that 2 over 6 is greater than 1 over 9. Now let's go ahead and cross multiply. So 2 over 6 here, and then 1 over 9 here. So 9 times 2 is 18, and then 6 times 1 is 6. If I compare these two numbers, you see that the 18 is greater than the 6. So we know that 2 over 6 is greater than 1 over 9. Let's look at 1 over 5 and 1 over 4. I'm going to find the common denominator. This is the multiples. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I'll stop here for now. In my 4, we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 and 24. And I'll stop here for now. So the common denominator that we're going to have for both of these is going to be the number 20. So I know I need to get 20 in my denominator so that we can compare. So I need a 20 here and a 20 here as well. All right, so by looking at my 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by the number 4. And if I look at my 4, I'm going to multiply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, top and bottom by the number 5. Let's go ahead and multiply. So 1 times 4 is 4. 5 times 4 is 20. We already have that in my denominator. 1 times 5 is 5. And then 4 times 5 is also 20. And we already have that in my denominator. So if I compare these two fractions, 4 over 20 and 5 over 20, you can see that the 5 over 20 is larger. So my fraction, remember the 5 over 20 represented the 1 over 4 here. So your answer is going to be 1 over 5 is less than 1 over 4. Because we are saying that 1 over 4 is greater than 1 over 5. This is your less than sign, this is your greater than sign, and then your equal to sign is here. So now let's try the decimal format way. So 1 over 5 and then 1 over 4. So if I turn 1 over 5 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.2 as your answer. And then if I turn 1 over 4 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.25 as your answer. So if I compare the two decimals, you're going to see that 0.25 is greater than your 0.2. Remember here you have like an imaginary 0 here, and here you have a 5. So you can see that 5 is greater than your 0. If I compare that back to my fraction, my original problem here, you're going to see that 1 over 5, again, is less than 1 over 4. And then if I cross multiply, 4 times 1 is 4, 5 times 1 is 5. If I compare these two numbers, you're going to see that your 5 is greater. So again, we know that 1 over 5 is less than 1 over 4. All right, let's look at the next example, 3 over 10 and 2 over 5. I'm going to find the common denominator. We're going to list the multiples of 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. And I'll stop here for now. In my 5, we have 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. And I'll stop here for now. So the common denominator that we have between these two is going to be the number 10. So I know I need to get 10 in my denominator. Just by looking at my 10 here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by just 1 because I have a 1 right there. So I'm going to do times 1 times 1. And then for my 5, I'm going to do 1, 2, multiply top and bottom by the number 2. So now I'm going to multiply. So we have 3 times 1 is 3. 10 times 1 is 10. We already have that, which is good. 2 times 2 is 4. And then 5 times 2 is 10, which we already have in the denominator, so that's fine as well. So now if I compare the 3 over 10 and the 4 over 10, you can see that the 4 over 10 is greater, is a larger number. Remember, the 4 over 10 represents the 2 over 5 that we have here. So your final answer, if you were to compare this fraction, is going to be 3 over 10 is less than 2 over 5. Remember, you can also write it as 2 over 5 is greater than 3 over 10. Now let's look at our decimal form. So if I do 3 over 10 and 2 over 5, so 3 divided by 10 as a decimal, this is going to be 0.3, and then 2 over 5 as a decimal is going to be 0.4. So if I compare these two decimals, you're going to see that 0.4 is larger than your 0.3. So we know that 3 over 10 is less than 2 over 5. And then cross multiply, if you do the cross multiply way, remember the warning at the bottom is to make sure you add your numbers to the top. So 5 times 3 is 15, add your numbers like this. And then 10 times 2 is 20. So if I compared my 15 and my 20, you're going to see that your 20 is larger, which represents your 2 over 5. So you're going to say 3 over 10 is less than 2 over 5. All right, so that is all for today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.